As a content creator, it's important to have a system where you can quickly switch cameras and especially the rigging depending on what you need to do. Because one moment you might be filming an event, the next moment you're in a theater, then you're out filming in nature somewhere or outdoors for a documentary, and then you might be in an office doing interviews or making your own content, and then it's just handy to have a system where you can switch very quickly. And recently I switched from Sony back to Canon, and as for why, we'll explain that in other videos. But in this video, I mainly want to show you why and how we chose the SmallRig system. The foundation of my video gear actually starts with the Canon C50, which is a very nice body in itself if you just want to work with it solo, handheld. But in terms of mounting points for extra gear, it just falls very short. That's why the first thing I ordered was that advanced cage kit for the Canon C50, and this includes the cage, which ensures that you have all these extra mounting points on the body, for example to attach your time code box or an extra monitor or whatever you want. In any case, you can just put gear in many more places, and what's very important, what's included, is the holder for a V-Lock battery. Because you'll notice when you start filming, your batteries go fast. And if you can just place an extra V-Lock battery on the back, well, then you can just film for almost a whole day on a single battery. Usually I have two batteries because I also have an extra screen on it. That also just costs extra battery, but this is just very nice. And the nice thing about this is that it adds extra weight. So if you hold it by the top handle and start filming, well, it just stays very stable because you have extra weight at the bottom. And quite honestly, since I've had this setup, I hardly use my gimbal anymore because, well, for handheld filming it just gives a very beautiful image. And what's also nice is that it's also a very modular system. And I already said, I think it's important that you should be able to switch quickly, and because you can basically just slide everything on and click it into place, it also means I can very quickly unclick my camera and, for example, put it back on a gimbal, just in case I would want to go filming with a gimbal. And while handheld filming certainly has its place within content creation, yeah, if you have to record interviews or events all day, then you also just want a static camera on a tripod. Or for example, a camera with a telephoto lens that's just manned at the back of the room. Yeah, then a good tripod is simply of great importance. And last year I got to know the Tribex series from SmallRig, and I just find these to be incredibly nice tripods. And so now I've also chosen the, and I have to say the name correctly, the Potato Jet Tribex II carbon hydraulic tripod. And I hope I pronounced it all correctly, but I just find this a very nice tripod for several reasons. First of all, it's carbon, so it's not mega heavy to take with you. But the most important thing is the following point. Instead of you first having to unclick and fasten 6 or 7 levers before you can set your tripod to the right height, with this one you can just fold out one lever. Then you hold your camera where you roughly want it on your tripod, then you squeeze the lever, then the legs slide out and your tripod is set. And if you want to change height very quickly, it's just a matter of squeezing the lever and you push it low and you push it high. Also, the moment you're done, fold the legs together, click the lever in, pull it down, and you can move on. And this simply saves an enormous amount of time. And it also has a nice fluid head on it, so that indeed, if you're standing at the back of the room with a telephoto lens, you can still easily follow your subject. So that's just super nice about this tripod, and again, it all fits together again. And the the last part of our equipment is now the HawkLock SmallRig Pro. And quite honestly, I've never really worked with shoulder rigs before, but it just seemed handy to indeed be able to put the camera on my shoulder. And when you're following someone, that it works well, and quite honestly, it just does. And it might sound crazy that I'm a bit surprised about it, but yeah, we've actually never used it. Very often we went to gimbals, etc. And the disadvantage I find with that is that you're often following someone at a somewhat lower height. And when you have your camera on your shoulder, you can just have a conversation with someone much more easily. You're much more engaged on a person-to-person level. And that's just really nice. Plus, because the weight just goes through your shoulder over the axis of your back. It also lasts through a full day of filming. I must say, this does hold quite nicely with that little thing in the back. You can just give it a bit of counter pressure, clamp it in nicely. So this unit is absolutely a must-have to have with you, and again, it's all compatible with each other as well, so you can either use the HawkLock adapter and then I can just slide the camera in at once and you're done, or I can just slide my whole unit on with the tripod plate that I also use for my tripod. Then, for example, with the V-lock on it too, and you can just film again. So you can just switch very quickly from something that's very small and handheld to just large shoulder rig units or tripods, and you can just keep switching all day long, and that's just something you do very often as a content creator. Then I have two more parts that I haven't mentioned yet, which aren't in this kit, but that I do recommend getting. And that is one I've already mentioned a little bit. That's a V-lock battery because, well, your whole system runs on that for almost a full day. And a small rosette arm. I personally use the 7 and the 11 inch. And what do you actually need those for? Well, for example, I work a lot with a small, field monitor, and you just want to be able to mount it in different places or just where you need it. So when I'm working handheld, I can just mount it to the side of my camera, or on top or on the back. When I'm working on a shoulder rig, I can mount it on the handle of the shoulder rig, and then you can just watch comfortably. And yeah, if your camera is here, you can no longer use the small screen. So it's just nice that you just have a screen here that you can look at while you are filming. And yeah, I can also mount it on my tripod again, so that if I'm filming myself, for example, or other people, I also have a larger screen to look at again. And as I already said a little bit at the beginning, an advantage with SmallRig is that it's all very affordable as well. And if you're thinking, yeah, but Ferry, I don't have a C70 at all, so what's the point for me? Well, as you might have seen or might know, SmallRig actually makes cages for every camera that comes out. If you use the cage, you can actually use it with everything. I also use the R5 Mark II and the R6 Mark III, which we also just used in this video. I don't know if it was noticeable in the footage, but yeah, it's just one big compatible ecosystem. And that is just incredibly important to have, especially as, well, a content creator nowadays. You need to be able to switch quickly, and with this system, you can just switch and everything works together. So you don't have the problem of buying one thing and then it doesn't work with the other. It's all just compatible, and that's just really nice. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up down below. Also, click on subscribe right away. You can do that here or here for other videos that YouTube thinks you'll like. And I look forward to seeing you again soon in the next video. Bye bye.